This is a progress update of getting the temperature probe to work correctly. So we have our temperature probe here connected to our 3.5 millimeter jack. Then we have wires run from 3.3 volts to here. We have two 10K resistors in parallel that make 5 kilo ohms of resistance. And then it's connected going to the audio jack, which will then hook to this temperature probe. Inside here is a thermistor. So we have current going through it, and as that current goes through it, it'll change based on the changing of temperature in here. And then we have this going back down to ground, and then this microcontroller is reading from this pin, GPIO port number 4, based on the analog input of this voltage change. When the temperature probe changes its voltage, we can read the voltage across this temperature probe on GPIO port number 4, and based on that we end up using analog read, which I'll show you the code later. The analog read creates a value between 0 and 495 because it's 496 but starts at 0, and from that number we can then run it through an algorithm, just a simple math equation, in order to figure out what temperature it actually is. Here's the code. As you can see, we have a few variables up here. This pot pen just shows what GPIO port it is connected to, and we said it was 4 before. The pot value is the actual analog number that we're reading, and then temperature 1 is going to be the variable that we're going to display down in the serial port here. So the setup began on the baud rate, and then we wait a second, and then we set up our pin, which is the GPIO port or number 4. We set it to input, and then this is our loop. We have the pot value, which is the analog read. So from pin number 4, we end up reading an analog number, and then that number is then based on the voltage. It is a number between 0 and 495, like we said before. And then from there, our temperature 1, we take that analog value and we divide that number by 8.29. That is because we ended up having a temperature sensor that was around 69 degrees, and that's what the temperature on my desk was. So that was the number that ended up bringing it to the correct temperature. We're still going to have to fine tune this later, just because when we get to actually testing the whole thing, it might not be the same number at higher values, so we'll have to fine tune it eventually. But for now it's working, and then we just have it printing. So right there, it is currently reading temperature, and it's 69, around 70 degrees on our desk, which is pretty accurate. Just to show, this is our temperature reading, just to show that it is working fully.